Let me get my list of questions here for the folks who can't be here. Okay, let's see. In today's video, you recorded the coyotes calling at night. Are you able to get sleep / go to sleep through that? Sorry if this is a silly question, but we don't have coyotes in Australia. I mean, y'all might not have coyotes, but y'all have like all sorts of stuff that kills you, right? Like, like all sorts of critters. No, you know, the coyotes don't usually howl all night long. Like I usually hear them maybe when I'm just going to sleep, or yeah, maybe one time in the night I'll be woken up by it, but it's not like a thing that normally I hear last all night long. So it's not a thing. And honestly, it's almost like comforting. And I mean, it used to kind of creep me out. It's funny because on the AT, I think it did creep me out a little bit, but on the on the CDT, when I hear it, if I do wake up and hear it, it's like I smile and go back to sleep. Or capture it like that, you know, and go back to sleep. That was probably taken at like 2 a.m. or something. But Tim says, any word from Perk? And not recently. He actually called Kyle when he was in the Wind River Range. He didn't take the Cirque of the Towers alternate. So, you know, and that is slower than the regular trail. So again, you know, I just feel like I'm doing like the beautiful things along the way, and he keeps taking the straightest path, and it's like I can't catch him like that, you know, and I'm not going to miss out on these awesome things that I want to see along the way just for the sake of catching him. But so anyway, he messaged Kyle because his phone, I guess he dropped it on the pavement and it broke, or well, at first his GPS started messing up, so he couldn't tell where he was on the trail. So he called Kyle in hopes that Kyle would remember from last year and be able to help him out. But so now I guess he dropped the phone and broke it completely. So he messaged me from somebody else's phone the other day, and he was north of Du Bois, so which is my next stop. So I'm still not like too crazy far behind him, but hey, I'm glad I made it. Watching some of your newest videos have almost made me nauseous. Do you ever get vertigo or anything like that? Not really. And it's funny you asked that because we were on a pass in the Cirque of the Towers, and it was one of the passes where the trail is like right on the side of the mountain. And so you could just, you know, like, I mean, technically like fall off the mountain, right? But I mean, you'd have enough friction hitting some rocks and stuff on the way down, or if you dig in, that you probably wouldn't die, you know. But Dakota was getting kind of nervous, and he was using one of my trekking poles, and he had his water bottle in the other hand, and he was like using the water bottle as another trekking pole. So just to see somebody who has never been up on something like that before do it for the first time, I'm like, oh yeah, I felt like that too, you know, the first time. But I think the Sierra Nevada last year broke me in pretty well with the passes and just feeling that sense of like, oh, I do not want to fall here, you know. But no, on this trail, I really haven't felt that way at all. I haven't felt like, except the one time in the San Juans where we were getting around that patch of snow and going down the scree. That's the only time that one little patch section there that I felt like kind of nauseous, you know, like, oh, I do not want to fall here. Are you running into any more random hikers or just y'all from Alabama? So we ran into a CDT hiker, 2 of them yesterday. One guy that I already know, a German guy named Sprinkler, and then another guy that I hadn't met until yesterday. So still seeing some CDT hikers, but seeing section hikers and day hikers, you know, especially today we saw a bunch getting closer to civilization. So I know this doesn't pertain to the CDT, but what was your favorite section on the AT? I really enjoyed the Tinker Cliffs area. That was one area, like McAfee Knob, Tinker Cliffs area. That would be like a good section to do. I actually have, I think, 3 section spotlight videos on the channel where I highlighted some areas. I mean, the whites are amazing. They're really pretty, but they are very challenging. I think Vermont was probably one of my favorite states because it was really pretty, but I didn't feel like it was as challenging as the whites, and you still got pretty good views. So I would say Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine were, you know, 3 of my favorite states. But for a section to do that, McAfee Knob, Tinker Cliffs area, it would be really beautiful to do as a section. And I've got a video on that. And actually, somebody else mentioned that they were going to be doing that here recently. So yeah, I don't know. The AT, yeah, I would say that would be a good section. So I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's hard to pick just like, you know, one chunk of a favorite of a long trail like that. Any good wildlife sightings recently? Kyle saw a bear the other day. I didn't get to see it. Dakota didn't see it. We saw a deer. I guess there hadn't been anything too crazy, you know, like a mountain lion or a grizz. Or I promise you, I will tell y'all if that happens. We are toting bear spray now, but trying to think of any of the other. I saw a weasel in the basin, so I posted a picture of that on Instagram the other day. That was kind of unique, you know, just something different that I actually haven't seen on any thru hike until now. So looks like you're about halfway through Wyoming. Are you still going to try a 24-hour challenge? I don't know if I will now or not, because I mean, it could happen, but that was kind of the best area for flat terrain. I mean, I could do it in an area that's not flat, but, you know, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot before you start a race kind of thing. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. If it works out that it's a good time for it, then yes. But if not, then I will definitely maybe do it on the TA, which speaking of, okay, so Tom asks, what are your plans for next year? So next year, in the summer, I want to go out to the PCT with my mom, and Dakota says now that he might want to join. So might go out there and, we'll go out there, and the sections that I want to do, she's never been on a backpacking trip, and she'll turn 60 next summer. And I want to do the areas that were closed due to fire last year, because I've got to get my continuous footpath so that I can submit my paperwork to be an official Triple Crowner by their definition. So I will do that with my mom, and then we'll probably summit Mount Elbert, which will be her first 14er. And then after that, I would like to do maybe the TA. I don't know that it'll be next year, but like maybe the one after. And then that next summer, my sister would like to do the Camino. So that's kind of rough plans, but definitely going with my mom, or if she can't go for some reason, by myself next year to fill in those holes on the PCT, because I don't feel good about submitting my paperwork. Even though I feel like I did a legitimate thru hike of the PCT, I don't feel good about submitting that paperwork unless I go by their standards, which says a continuous footpath on all the trails. So let's see. Tony says, hi, Dixie. Are you pretty much on schedule for a pre-winter crap weather finish? Feeling any pressure to make miles these days? Love the videos and pics. The fish looked really good. So yeah, I'm afraid that it's going to end up being, you know, another crappy finish. Unfortunately, I don't know. It depends on Mother Nature, right? Like what the weather decides to do. So as far as feeling pressure to make miles, I wasn't feeling I was a little concerned, but more so now that this week has kind of taken us, or this last stretch has taken us a little bit, you know, longer than I had hoped. But, you know, it is what it is. And I think what Kyle's going to do is probably he might get a vehicle and start supporting me. So that way, you know, getting in and out of town will be a little bit more efficient, and I can do some bigger days, and knowing that, you know, if I get to that road crossing tonight, like I'll go in and be able to do my chores. So we'll see what happens with that. Jill says, hi, Dixie, any big gear changes or fail so far? So the only real gear change that I have in Lander, we picked up some bear spray, and I got the big cans. It's counter assault. So I did some research, and I was trying to figure out, you know, which one would like spray the longest and which one would shoot the furthest, and just all the different, you know, you got to worry about spray time, the distance that it'll shoot, and I guess that's pretty much it. But, you know, some of that has to do with the volume. So just kind of read up on all that and came to the conclusion of getting this one right here. And today I saw a lady with the Forest Service carrying the same bear spray, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, that's pretty much the newest piece of gear. I have a different pair of sun gloves, but I'm not necessarily in love with them more than the outdoor research ones. It's just that I lost my outdoor research, and these were cheaper on Amazon. So But other than that, yeah, no gear changes. When it starts getting colder, I'm going to get another base layer, like set of base layers to hike in. So the spork versus spoon thing, how do you eat ramen noodles with a spoon? You just do what?
I said ramen.
Oh. You just like mash it up, you know, I guess just cut it. Honestly, I think I've only had those a couple of times on this trail so far. And I think you just, you know, as long as you get enough on the spoon to get some in your mouth. But yeah, I agree. I guess that would be the main argument for the spork for sure. But I think you can, you know, cut them up enough or just twirl it enough around the spoon to make it work. Because I know I have, and I haven't like stressed or struggled too much over it. So is it a pain to cook before you make camp for the night? Yes, I think it is. To me, it kind of kills the momentum. Like I get this momentum, you know, I'm like trucking along, and then, you know, I stop and I cook. And cooking takes a little while, so it's not as fast as just like stopping and eating a snack real quick or a tortilla or something like that. And I do like cooking, so you know, I'm gonna have to get just more efficient at that and somehow because the days are going to get shorter and shorter. But yeah, so that has been kind of a pain since we've been in Grizz country, like stopping to cook and then like packing it all up and going. When before I could hike all through the daylight, get to my tent, you know, set it up at about dark, and then you know, cook laying in my sleeping bag basically, which isn't necessarily a great idea anyway, but you know, still once you're at camp and everything's set up, it's just like a lot nicer, you know, you're done for the day. So in my mind, when I cook dinner, I'm like, oh, I'm done. And then I'm like, no, actually, I still need to hike some more. So let's see. How's Aaron doing? Has he a wall yet? When did you hit the wall on the AT? I don't know. Well, I mean, Aaron's doing fine, but as far as hitting the wall, I don't know that I ever necessarily really hit a wall. I guess the biggest wall I would say that I hit was when I ended up having to go home for my dog getting sick and passing away. So that was, you know, that was pretty tough. And that was in Pennsylvania. So a lot of people say people get the Pennsylvania or the Virginia blues, but I had the Pennsylvania blues. So, but yeah, I don't know that he's hit a wall. He hasn't said that to me anyway. So are you finding berries in the more lush areas? You know, somebody said the other day that they found raspberries near the water source, but I didn't see any of them. I have been finding these little bitty berries that we found on the PCT last year in like Oregon and Washington, and I don't know that we ever finalized a definition of like, or the name of them. I don't know if we ever settled on the name of these berries, but they're really good. And I should take a picture and look it up. I really should. Or post it and see if y'all know what it is. But what's the temperature range been, and how's the skeeters? So the temperature range has been like cold at night enough to frost on my tent, and then just like hot, like just sun beating down on you hot during the day. But then some days have been pretty chilly if we sit in the shade. So I don't know exactly what the highs have been. I would say, I don't know, Dakota, what do you think? In the 80s?
No, I don't even think it's got that high.
You don't think it's gotten that high? Yeah, see,
I would say low 70s.
Low 70s? Okay, Dakota's thinking low 70s has been the high, and at night it's been frosting on the tent. So,
Really?
But we've been up at 10,000 feet elevation pretty much this whole past week. So, and the skeeters have been intermittent, but not too terrible. Like if we put on rain pants and raincoats while we're eating, they don't, you know, they don't really bother us. And it's not like they're everywhere. It's mainly when we get around standing water. Hi, Dixie. This is my first Q&A as a Patreon. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You're such an inspiration to me. I'm planning a thru hike next year. What is your average mileage per day? Well, thank you for being a patron and welcome to Patreon. Average mileage per day when I first start a trail is like, I don't know, I start off at like 8 to 10 miles per day, and then I bump up slowly. But in the heart of the, you know, in the prime of my thru hike, I guess, normally I'm doing between 20 and 25. I mean, I've done 30s on this trail, but I've also done a lot less than that. So this last stretch, I think our mileage was between 12 to 15 miles per day, something like that. So it just depends, you know, it depends on the terrain. It depends, like in Colorado, to get in the lower 20s was like I felt like I actually worked for a 22, 23 mile day in Colorado, where in New Mexico, you know, a 30 was probably about equal to how it felt to do a 22 in Colorado. So it really depends on elevation, terrain, weather, all sorts of stuff. So, or have you been hanging a bear bag on the CDT? Not really, because in the desert, there just really hasn't been a place to hang a bag. So, I'll say this, I haven't been always hanging like a proper bear bag. So I might go find a branch, you know, that's low to go clasp it on, my bag on, and just so it's out of my tent. In the desert, a lot of times I'm sleeping with it. I probably should get an Ursack. That'd be the best thing. And then just have it outside of the tent, like on the ground somewhere with a rock on top of the string. But here we're still not able to do a complete proper one so far. I mean, in this last stretch, I think there's been one place where I could hang the boys were hanging it and I was setting up the tents, but to hang a proper bag, there just haven't been trees out here that have really long limbs. You're talking like Christmas tree like pines, you know, that conifers that are just like straight up. And so, you know, we're lucky to just get it on a limb and get it high off the ground, pretty much. There have been, I think there was like one limb that was, you know, a decent length that they got it out. But basically, you don't want the bear to be able to shimmy up the trunk of the tree and grab the bags and just tear into it, right? So you want it to be where they climb up and they can't shimmy out on that branch because they know, like, hey, the branch is probably going to break or it won't hold me, or, you know, for whatever reason, they don't go for it. So you want it high up to where they can't stand on the ground and reach up and get it, and to where they can't shimmy up the trunk and reach over and get it. So but any of the bears that wanted these food bags could have shimmied up the tree and gotten them. And I mean, but the important part is that we're getting it far away enough, getting it far away from our tents, and out of our tent, you know. And I was actually talking to Steve Adams earlier, and he was telling me that somebody somewhere online was debating that sleeping with your food bags is actually safer because you can guard your food from the bears. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of against everything me or him had ever heard of, but you know, that's I guess that is one argument, and I might feel better about that in black bear country, but you know, there have been people who bears have like torn into their tents or bit into their hammocks and stuff like that, and so I just don't know that it's good to risk that. So anyway, you know, you have to make that choice, but you have to also understand that when bears start to associate people with food, that it becomes a danger for people, and then also, you know, that bear is probably going to be killed. So, you know, they might have like one chance of being kind of aggressive, and then they're tagged, and then they're killed. So, it's just, I think you do the best that you can where you are and what terrain you have, and, you know, just be smart about it. So, are your normal hiking expenses more or less on this trail than the other two? I would probably say they've been more on this trail. The towns have been like ski towns, and so staying in a room, you know, when I was on the AT and I wasn't doing Q&As, and you know, the videos were just like, more or less like I'll document my experience, and it wasn't as much of a thing, you know. I wasn't taking as much, I wasn't capturing as much. I mean, not even close. And I think I had like a tiny little battery bank on the AT. But here, you know, I've got to get to a place where I can stay a night and like, and charge, all of my batteries and stuff like that. So, but yeah, a lot of these towns like through Colorado have been ski towns, in Wyoming. Some of the smaller towns, they know that if somebody wants to stay there, they can, you know, charge you an arm and leg for it. Now, I have been splitting rooms with Aaron, but I also, on the other trail, split rooms with Dibs and Perk and, you know, other people. So, and Milestone, and so, you know, it has, I think, been more expensive out here. But, you know, not a whole lot, but the PCT and the CDT were definitely more expensive for me than AT, because like I said, it was more of a priority to get a room to do some of this, you know, stuff that I didn't do on the AT. But If it was just somebody out doing a through hike, you know, you could come in, like the church here, I guess you can stay at the church for free, but I don't know, you know, who else is staying there, what kind of noises and chaos are going on in the background, so that I can't get work done. And then also, you know, are a lot of other hikers there? Are they using all of the outlets? Like, am I actually going to be able to charge all my stuff, you know? So it just depends. If I can find a cheap hostel, then I would prefer that. But, you know, when I'm splitting the rooms with Aaron too, like, he needs silence so he can hear the videos through his headphones. Like, we stayed, when we were in Pie Town, I know that, you know, folks laughing and cutting up and playing music and just having fun, you know, and doing what people like to do on a thru hike. But I know that he had to like really crank the headphones up, and he had to go when it was quiet later and check the volume levels and stuff like that, because he just couldn't hear real well over it. So when you're doing something like this as, you know, a job or something like that, it is different, and there are more expenses associated with it than otherwise. And like mailing stuff ahead, I just mailed the drone ahead because I don't even want to have it on me in a national park. So when I go through Yellowstone, I don't even want it in my possession, because you're not supposed to fly them there, and I don't even think possess them. So I'm like, I don't even want to risk it. So Fred says, how do you sleep, side, back, etc.? I am a right side sleeper with a left hand zipper. My hiking buddy laughs at me for rolling around in my bag and the noise my pad makes until I get comfy. Yeah, my pad's the same way. It just, you know, like, it sounds like a Fritos bag, people say, but it's so much more comfortable to me than a foam pad. I just can't sleep on those. But I am a stomach / side sleeper, and I go from left side to stomach to right side, and I think I do that all night long. And I wish that I could sleep on my back, because they say that sleeping on your side, or, you know, on your stomach when your face is on its side, that it causes you to get more wrinkles than somebody who sleeps on their back. And it makes sense, because you're like creasing your face at night, you know. So I guess that's kind of I don't know, dumb to think about, but, you know, I guess I think about it. But yeah, I just can't make myself sleep on my back. As soon as I start dozing off, I'm like, boop, and I turn or flip on my stomach. So wish I could train myself to sleep on my back, but, so I feel you. I flip-flop around like a fish too. So when you're hiking in areas without trees and with other people, how hard is it to have privacy for bathroom privileges? Oh, yeah. So, like, for example, when we were in the basin and I was hiking around 5 other people, I am a morning pooper. And I mean, that's like really probably TMI for y'all, but it's the truth. It is what it is. And so when I get up in the morning, it goes from like, I'm calmly eating my breakfast and drinking my coffee. And I thought it was just the coffee that did it, but I've had several mornings where I haven't even gotten to the coffee yet, and it becomes like a calm morning to like, it's an emergency and I have to go. And so, and Dakota says he can hold his for days, and Perk holds his for days. I don't see how people do that. That's like a magical power that I just don't have, and I don't think I'm ever gonna have. But Kyle and I are the same. It's like, it's not an emergency until it is. Like, it's nothing. It's like, I don't feel it until like, boom, I have to go. So anyway, in those instances, when we were in one place we were camped, there was actually like a goalie. So, you know, we had already scouted out the night before, and it's like people kind of make a joke to get, you know, comfortable about things, but it doesn't take long for a group of stranger thru hikers to feel pretty close. And so it's kind of like, well, guys, I'm gonna go hide in the goalie now and do my business. But like the night before, we had joked around and we're like, well, if anyone has to go, there's always the goalie, you know. And so, I mean, it can be, you know, a little like, well, but, you know, when it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So luckily mine normally hits me before the sun's like way up and really bright, so at least maybe I can hide behind some, you know, shadows or something, I don't know, with the sun not completely out. And but yeah, you just have to say sometimes, or like when it's not number 2 and it's number 1, you know, I was hiking around all those folks. If we were all hiking real close together, I'd be like, well, y'all go ahead and, you know, don't turn around. And I mean, they know, you know, nobody wants to see that. So, I mean, And also I told Dakota, I was like, if we're walking through, and this is when you have woods, if you see a pack on the trail, don't go looking around like, where's the person that's attached to this pack normally, you know, because they're probably hiding off in the woods. And that's just a way to let somebody know, like, okay, you're ahead of me now, or you're behind me now, and, or I'm behind you now. And like leaving your pack on trail, just let somebody know that now you've passed them. And, but yeah, people normally leave it there and, you know, go off into the woods. So it's like, don't look around too much, you know, but anyway, so yeah, you just kind of adjust to it. People kind of learn, like, everybody does this. And so, you know, you just sometimes you just have to tell them. So like, I'm going to do this now. See, have you ever used the Xtherm by Thermarest? I have a NeoAir short, but I'm worried I'll be too cold come fall backpacking season. I have, somebody gave me an Xped. I don't remember if it's by Thermarest or not, but I guess it's not the same thing, but it's like one of those down sleeping pads. And so I haven't used it yet. I just normally just deal with this short one until I get done with the hike, and it does get cold. So if I was gonna go on a fall hike and, you know, I wanted to be warm, the women's sleeping pad, actually, Dakota's using my old women's sleeping pad right now. It's a little bit warmer, and it weighs the same as like a normal, like a regular length sleeping pad, the NeoAir Extra Light. But you could even look into that. The women's NeoAir Extra Light is a little bit warmer than like the NeoAir Short or the NeoAir regular length, and it's the same weight as the NeoAir regular length, which I believe is like 12 ounces. So you could look into that. That's an option. But no, I haven't personally tried the Xtherm. Have you lost any gear yet? I'd hate to see you break that tradition. Lloyd, since you asked me that, I have lost a hat. I've lost 2 pairs of sun gloves. I said in the last video that was my 3rd hat, but I lied. I got one from Dollar General. I got one from Walmart. I got one from Target. And the one I have now, I got from an outfitter, like just a place in Steamboat. So I'm on the 4th hat. Loved your macros with the snake and the dragonflies especially. Yeah, I really was excited when I got that shot of the dragonflies, especially the slow motion one. I didn't realize that the dragonflies like flew like a helicopter. Like they just kind of like, I don't know, their wings do some crazy stuff. You know, you just always think that they do like that. But when I saw that video, I remember watching it after I took it, and I mean, I just thought it was crazy. So thank you. I'm glad that you liked it. And yeah, the snake. I actually ended up, I was getting a shot of the snake with the macro lens, and I was trying to get it with its tongue, you know, sticking out. And then it finally, I backed up one time, and I wish that it had been in focus when it happened. But it just like shot off into the bushes because it didn't like me getting up close to it. But I was like, you know, it's not a rattlesnake, so it'll be okay. But yeah, that thing shot out, and just because it was such a quick movement, I was like, like I totally screamed like a girl. I'm planning on hiking the AT, but your PCT hike was what inspired me. Keep up the amazing videos, Stephanie. Awesome. That's cool, Stephanie. Yeah, the AT, I mean, if somebody asked me tomorrow, you know, I'm going to thru hike, or I'm thinking about doing a thru hike, what's your favorite trail? I would be like the AT. I mean, the PCT and the CDT are breathtakingly beautiful, but just the culture and what I feel like was most special to me about thru hiking happened on the AT. So so for what that's worth. So I'm glad that you're doing the AT. But you know, for anyone doing another thru hike that's not the AT, I still think that it's a life-changing experience regardless. So hi from Texas. So excited to see your Q&A link. What is your current favorite snack? I'm still kind of stuck on salt and vinegar chips, the kettle cooked salt and vinegar chips, but peanut M&Ms have been pretty good. Snickers? No, it wasn't the Snickers.
It's all about Spam.
Yeah, Kyle really likes the Spam, but yeah, probably I would probably say the salt and vinegar chips. I still can't get over those. Let's see. I hope you publish a book of just your pictures. Yeah, thank you, Fred. And second Fred's motion. I've thought about that. I don't know. Like, I mean, and several people have said it, so I'm like, okay, maybe there would be a market for it. But I guess it wouldn't hurt, you know, it wouldn't hurt to try. It's just to print a book up like that, with color pictures, and it, you know, to be a decent amount. I think that would be the biggest challenge, is getting it printed cost effectively enough, because if I do a drop shipping type book, then it's going to be pretty expensive, especially if all the pages are color. But I mean, it's definitely not something out of the question, but I'm glad to know that there's interest in that. So I really do love taking pictures. So let's see. Nadine says, you mentioned the TA. If you are referring to the somebody told me how to say this before. But anyway, the TA, yes, the Long Trail in New Zealand. If you can add some extra time at the end, it's really worth it to go over the Milford Sound and overnight on one of the heritage ships. Oh, cool. Well, thank you for that suggestion. I have to remember that. Milford Sound and overnight on one of the heritage ships. Okay. Yeah, I am referring to that, though. Yeah, I want to try something out overseas, something somewhere different. How many days out from Yellowstone Yellowstone are you? I'm not sure. After Du Bois, that'll be the next stop. So, you know, at least a week, I would guess, but I don't know for sure. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.